football, you have to ask one question. Don't you deserve a fighting chance? And now, welcome to Fighting Chance Live with your hosts, Kevin Tompkins and Scott Fishbowl 9 winner, Gary Haddow.
Welcome into Fighting Chance Live. I am Kevin Tompkins from FightingChanceFantasy.com. And of course, with me each week is Gary Haddow, the vivacious Gary Haddow. How are you, bud?
Vivacious. I love it. I'm doing fantastic. It's always nice. Say it every week. I love the Wednesday night. Just get to step out from work and talk some shop, and it's always fantastic. And this week will be fun. It's going to be different than kind of the usual off-season kind of slog going through stuff. So this will be great. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have our great guest, Samantha Praviti. And if I said that wrong, please just cuss me out. Did I get it?
That was actually perfect. And I have never heard someone do it on the right try. So that you must, that's a superpower or something.
I'm a phonetic snob, so
okay.
We'll just go with it. But, Samantha, how are you today?
I am doing great. I'm stuck in quarantine in New York, of course, still. But getting through it.
I miss New York. I miss the city. I mean, I'm from upstate, obviously, hence the Syracuse right there. But I just miss everything New York. I'm stuck here in what's going to be a blizzard soon in North Dakota. So
that's exciting, though. I'm thinking about moving out west, so I'm kind of a little bit jealous.
Are you from New York?
I am not from New York. I'm actually from Rhode Island, but I've lived in a whole bunch of different places. I moved to New York from South Carolina, actually. So. Little
Very
southern
cool.
too, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, Samantha, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where we can find you, and you prop yourself up.
Cool. Yeah. So I went to McGill University in Montreal. Definitely did not grow up liking sports really, and actually just kind of went headfirst into football once I graduated college. Just really ended up liking it, and my day job is I work for the New York Post as the director of analytics, and they are gracious enough to let me also write fantasy and now kind of just really broad general assignment type stuff for sports, which is really exciting. Yeah. Definitely not the path that I thought I'd go in life. But I'm so excited. I mean, my mom, she's very confused by the whole thing. I sent her these these articles about Johnny Damon's butt and Joe Buck commentating porn. She's like, I think I should be proud. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, just be proud.
Amazing.
But yeah, you can find me on the New York Post. I usually write a couple articles a week, a couple articles a day, sorry. And then you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is there at Samantha NFL. Very easy to remember.
When you said director of analytics, I was like, oh, that's awesome. She's in charge of their NFL analytics, doing analytics. And then you're like, and they let me write. And I was like, oh, analytics. Okay.
They are two totally separate job roles that do not intersect at all, except I am so obsessive about the clicks that I get because they're my mind is so set on that. Yeah. So I do newsroom analytics to help us promote our content and everything, and then do the writing, which is completely separate. So yeah,
it's very, very cool.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because how we got connected was really the Scott Fishbowl. So being your first time in the Scott Fishbowl, how was that experience for you as a first timer going through the draft and the charity aspect and just everything in total?
I was so psyched to be accepted. I posted on my Instagram story and sent it to friends, and not one of them understood it. They were like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, it's cool. Just it's cool. So anyway, it was super fun. I didn't know exactly how to prepare for it. Of course, read through the scoring and tried to do my best, but it's obviously for fun. The slow draft, definitely not a fan of that. And there were two people in my league that were really in my division that were really slow, and they were like the flanking people. So like the person right before me and right after me. So there was a lot of waiting for me.
That's so frustrating.
But yeah, I mean, it was too much fun. Kevin literally was like talking me through every single pick. So I had the 6th pick, and I got Patrick Mahomes, which was super exciting. That was like not part of my original draft strategy because I just didn't think Patrick Mahomes would be there. But I mean, if you can then get like Tyreek Hill and have a Chiefs stack, I don't think you can really complain that much.
You have an awesome team. You really do. Really well balanced for anybody that's listening. So it's Mahomes, Hill, Jacobs, Thielen, Singletary, Waller, Ingram, Goff, Edelman, Breida, Foles, Herndon, and then more people. But I honestly, I genuinely really do like it. I mean, the McKinnon moving up is in the news lately. That's got to be awesome. And Henderson has a later round pick. Like, that's fantastic. I think it really freaking good team.
It's definitely like weak in running back. I had kind of miscalculated. I thought that people would go heavier on quarterbacks, just like based on sort of like the reading that I had done before, and they didn't. And it was very strange. Like we didn't get it to a quarterback run until probably like the 5th or 6th round. So it was a little. You guys
had one of the lightest quarterback early drafts I saw. I mean, the fact that Kevin, I think, got Breeze at 211, and then you got Mahomes, obviously, at 106. I had the 101, and I was debating back and forth. I mean, literally up until I clicked McCaffrey, but I was debating back and forth between him and Mahomes. So, it's fantastic. I mean,
did anyone
spot for Nick Foles? So,
did anyone not take Christian McCaffrey 101?
Yeah. Some people
really?
Took Lamar. Some people took Mahomes. There are some people that took Saquon. I don't know if anybody else went anywhere.
I think it was only those 4.
Yeah, last year Kelsey was one of the few other players that ever went first, or like AK, but that was obviously different.
Yeah, the tight end scoring is totally crazy. I've never seen anything like it. So
you should just get into some tiered PPR scoring. Just get into 1, and you'll do like 0.5 for running back, 0.7 or 1 for a wide receiver, and then 1.5 or 2 for a tight end. They're so much fun. You can build because it allows you to really have balance at all the different positions and stuff. I recommend just try it out.
I had such like a vanilla background with like fantasy. My very first league was like a 16-team auction custom scoring IDP league with like a 20-person bench or something like that. This draft takes like 4.5 hours. Like it is really intense, and like they're all crazy. They all like nominate kickers and immediately.
Talk about thrown in the fire.
Yeah, you were like, I don't know how to swim, but I'm just going to jump into the deep end when no one else is around. Like, that's
exactly.
I would not do a league like that. I will be perfectly honest. That's a little too much for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's something fun.
Yeah, no thanks. I haven't done an IDP in maybe 15 years. Auction, I haven't really done, and might want to get back in those waters. But yeah, just your first time, I don't know how you didn't just go running and be like, no, this isn't for me.
It was crazy. I mean, I just got very lucky the first year or two, and I went like 12-1 in my first season. So that's kind of what got me hooked.
Lucky, yeah.
No, it was totally lucky. I mean, that draft was crazy, and yeah, it was very lucky. So that kind of got me hooked. That was like the gateway drug into the world of fantasy.
Yeah.
And now you're in the world of TikTok, and I oh boy, because I have literally one TikTok, and then you're just pumping them out by the hour. It seems like, so you're putting us all to shame here with your fantasy. What's your TikTok handle for the kids out there?
It's at S so S and then my last name. And yeah, I think that's just a testament to like how bored I have really been in quarantine. And that's what everyone has said to me. They're like, wow, you must be really bored. And I'm like, oh, wow, I think that's, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult, but
my wife is doing the same thing. She's all about TikTok right now.
I definitely said that I would never do it. And then like now I'm kind of like, it's really fun and like it's stupid, but I mean, I don't have like anything to do most of the time. Yeah. So
fun is fun.
Yeah. You guys got to get on TikTok next. So, like, start pumping out some content. You got to do the dances. That's, like, the big thing, like the laffy dance and everything.
She keeps wanting us to do a dance, and I keep saying I will, but she just needs to remind me some night. That's my way of getting out of it.
So let me guess. She wants you to do the like the Taylor Swift one.
I have no idea. I probably do. I love Taylor Swift, so I'm more than happy to dance to her. So
I will look forward to that TikTok then.
Yes, I will have my wife find you and follow. Is it follow? I don't know if that's a thing. I'm not even on Instagram. Well, I'm on it, but yeah. Evan, what are we doing today on this podcast? What are we doing besides talking about TikTok?
Well, I'm good with it, but you know what? We can actually get into the meat of our discussion here. We're going to go through some player props. So we've got a bunch of props here from mybookie.ag. Some of the lines that have been set for certain statistics for a bunch of players. So we're just going to go through them and we can really kind of dig into them. So the first one I have, we're looking at Aaron Rodgers, under 3,899 and a half passing yards. So I'm going to go with Samantha first on this. So where do you see how Rodgers is going to do, especially with that line?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like smash the over. I mean, he's hit over 3,900 yards in all but 2 of his healthy seasons since taking over. And, you know, one of the seasons he was just shy of like 3,900, and it was the season where like Jordy Nelson tore his ACL. Yep. And I understand that like a lot of this I feel like is narrative driven, and it's reactive to a lot of like the narratives that I've even written about a bunch of like terms of like, oh my God, is Jordan like, you know, Aaron Rodgers is on the clock and all of that. But I mean, they're not going to be paying him $22 million to warm the bench. And like Jordan Love is a very, very raw prospect. He's polarizing. A lot of people thought he was like not even going to declare for the draft. I thought he'd go into like a Power 5 program. So I kind of just feel like it's probably going to be like 2 years before we really see him in like a polished product.
I completely agree. I don't understand half these numbers, but they're. I mean, I get it because I've had to think
by people smarter than us, certainly smarter than me.
You're taking a number and you're setting it and saying, okay, you are first betting 16 games, and then if those 16 games actually are fully played, then it's not, you know, then all these other things have to go right. But yeah, like you said, I mean, 3,922 was like his year that got close to it, I think was the yardage. And then a 38-21. And you're just like, all right, yeah, smash that. And I actually think that Love being drafted is going to light a fire. I think that he's going to try and do everything he can. The defense is not going to be as good. Their one score game differential, I think it was like 7-2 that they won their one score game differential. That's not going to happen. Like they're going to be a worse off team. Most teams regress. Like, I mean, that's the definition of regression. And so that means they're going to have to throw a little bit more. I mean, you can't even hate on the weapons. He did it with these same weapons. They got to the playoffs. I mean, they were pretty much a half game away from being the number 1 seed in the NFC last year. I mean, they were a good team. I don't think they'll be as good, but that's actually good for fantasy. That's my perspective. Aaron Jones won't have 16 touchdowns. Take 5 of those, give them to Aaron Rodgers, and that's just going to increase some more yardage for him. So,
yeah, I think I would go over, but I'm not going much over than the 30. You know, I think he's going to get to 4,000. I think he was at 40-27 last year, but I don't think he's going to get too much over that because I do worry about, you know, you could chalk up Adams to about 1,200 at minimum if he's playing 16. But then you've got all those guys that are like Lazard, you've got Sternberger, you've got MVS, you've got possibly St. Brown, all those guys that are going to be just 400 or 500 yards, and those add up. So if you're looking at that prop, I say he's guaranteed 4,000. I just don't know if I'm going to go over that, but for this, yeah, it's great. Take the over.
So, like, if Adams had played a full 16 games, I don't know if it's logical to say that Rodgers' yardage would have increased, but I would expect that it would increase somewhat. And so even the fact that he only did 4,000 yards, I would expect that to be closer to 41, maybe 42 if Adams was there. Because Adams missed 4 games and he was at 1,000 yards. So, I mean, he was kind of on pace to be doing at least 80 yards a game. So I don't know if that's additive, though. Again, someone smarter than me can figure that one out if that's the case or not. But, yeah, their identity will be interesting to watch this year.
It's obviously a shame that, like, they didn't get a wide receiver from everything that was available. I mean, on the board at the time was Michael Pittman and T. Higgins. And obviously that would have – I mean, Devontae Adams literally said this, like, last week that he was even shocked by –
All I wanted was Denzel Mims. That's all I wanted.
Would have been awesome.
You gave me an H-back.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely a shame that he won't get another weapon, and because what you said, Gary, that like they just seems like they were so close. I mean, they won 13 games. I don't think they're going to win 13 games this year, but they were really close to being like a Super Bowl team that they could have used one more weapon, and now they have something that they can't use for like 2 years. So obviously, a little bit head scratching, but I don't think any like at the end of the day, like they're pretty much the same team. So I think that he'll definitely get there.
I don't even know if they're going to win the division. that division's wide open.
That is a spicy take.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I could see the Vikings winning that division. I don't know about the defense. I think it's going to be Green Bay's going to have to calm down. I think like maybe 10-6 would win that division. I don't.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I mean. That's exactly what I think. It's the type of thing where the Packers are the favorites and the Lions are the least favorite, and they're all within very close percentage points as to the breakdown of that. So, moving on to the next one. I'm just gonna take it there. So Carson Wentz over under on 27.5 passing touchdowns. Kevin, I'm going to go to you since you were last there. So what do you think on this? 27.5 passing touchdowns.
I'm going to go under that because I still want to. Someone's got to step up in that receiving core. We know what Ertz is going to do. We know what Goddard's going to do for the most part. If they can get 10 games out of Deshaun Jackson, that's a win. If they can get Jalen Reagor to be a fraction of what they think he can be in a COVID world, it's a rookie. Just being another option there, great. They were talking about Greg Ward now. He's going to be a slot option for them, which, he looked really, really good at the end of last season. So, he could factor in as well. Alshon Jeffrey, if he comes back after being on the pup, the weapons will come back, but I'm just not sold on really Carson Wentz being able to sustain what he did with the depleted receiving core that he had last year. So, I mean, that was great what he did, and he really put that team on his shoulders. I just don't know if he can do it almost again with the same cast of characters.
Yeah, I mean, they did have one opt-out, which is Marquise Goodwin, but, I mean, they obviously got Jalen Reagor, which I think he's going to be really great and definitely a big impact. It's, like, probably a soft under for me. Like, it's, like, right about – this is the number that I think is, like, correct. I think he actually had 27 last year, too. And he had hit the over that, I think, once before, and it was the year that they went to the Super Bowl. So it's, like, very iffy. It kind of feels like a coin toss in my opinion. Yeah.
I don't know. I was just looking at, I didn't think he played 16 games last year, but he did play 16 games.
Yeah.
Maybe that last game is when he injured his back. I can't remember if that was the playoff.
That was the playoff game. Yeah.
The first one. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was kind of shocking that he had 607 attempts. I was not expecting that many. I definitely thought it was lower. So yeah, I mean, man, it's one of the few players where I'm like, I really hope that he goes for the over just for him. Like he's really talented. Kevin, you should watch what you say about Wentz up there.
Yeah,
in the Dakota, you're not allowed to badmouth him. I think he's like he's going to become governor once he retires. So
then he got Trey Lance, and he's going to take over. So
yeah, there you go.
But so let's go. Let's stick with another quarterback, Jared Goff. Over. I'm going to say he's going to smash the over on 24.5 touchdowns. He only threw 22 touchdowns to 16 interceptions last season, throwing the ball well over 600 times. That is a very bad percentage, versus how many attempts. So there's a regression coming with that, and I can't see the Rams deviating too much. They're going to throw the ball over 600 times. That defense is not good. That they're going to be in some shootouts with good teams, and they're going to have to just throw a lot of garbage time. Give me Goff well over 24. I think he gets up to probably in the 30s.
Whew.
Yeah, I agree. That was like totally something that stood out to me on his stat line last year about the attempts and the number of touchdowns. It just feels like it's like definitely imbalanced. And he had 32 touchdowns the year prior and 28 the year before that. So I think he gets there. It just seems like last year was definitely a weird year for touchdowns for him.
I will definitely take the over because I think that number is incredibly low. I mean, the top rookie quarterback we're hoping is going to get close to 24, right? It's kind of like the benchmark we're looking for. That being said, he's not going to get to 30. I mean, in 2018, they set the world on fire and he got 32 touchdowns. Granted, I guess they had Gurley who had a bazillion touchdowns that year, but I don't know. I definitely would see him in I would probably put money on like the 26 to 28, 26 to 29, I guess 29 range. I mean, I feel like the 24.5 is ridiculous because even from the 22 they did last year, Robert Woods is going to have like 7 more touchdowns than he had last year, right? Let's just say 17 more touchdowns than he had last year because we love our Robert Woods. But realistically, that'll get him over the mark himself. Right? That's what I would think.
Is there a backstory to the Robert Woods love? I know it's in your Twitter bio.
He just stole my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, my girlfriend has it, but there's a special place for Robert Woods.
Yeah. When looking at Robert Woods, it's just clear eyes, full hearts.
Like think like the Bugs Bunny, like the heart eyes, and he's floating. Like the cartoon, like Looney Tunes. I don't know how to describe it.
In all sincerity, like I wasn't even that super high on him, but like Kevin kind of got me into him. Adam Murph, I don't even know if that's what Murph's last name is. Murph from 5 Yard Rush, he also really got me onto them too. And Robert Woods might be my most owned player in fantasy this year. I always am just happy to wait to go RB robust, maybe take a tight end, a quarterback if for some reason like Mahomes falls, and then I'll take Robert Woods and he'll be my RB1 and my wide receiver 1, and I'm always pumped about it every single time. So, yeah,
it's really funny too because I think I texted you, Gary, and found a site where with my most owned players, and he wasn't even. I think he was number 4 somehow. And Darrington Evans was my most owned player of all my teams, Dynasty, you name it. He's the most owned player, and then AJ Brown, which is funny because I'm down on the Titans' efficiency. But love those 2 players. So it's just really funny.
Have you ever like spoken to him, like even on like Twitter or anything like that?
He retweeted me when I got my Woods jersey, actually.
Oh wow, big time.
With the new gross jerseys, he got,
oh my god, dude,
they're so yucky.
No, the bone colored jerseys are ugly. The blue ones are nice with the gradient number or the numbers. Those are beautiful.
Oh, is that the one that you have?
Yeah, that's the one I have. It's the blue with the Rams patch, and it's the 2-toned numbers. Those are great. Come on, Gary.
So the Rams still suck. So.
He's a 49ers fan, so he has just built-in
Seahawks. I hate the
negative energy.
I feel lucky. I don't have any actual like team allegiance, so. Except I don't like the Patriots. That's like kind of the only thing.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? It kind of like it goes hand in hand with fantasy because they're usually like iffy. So I'm like, I don't feel like there's any love lost when I don't draft them.
Yeah. I really would love to not have a team that I have a strong affinity to. And luckily, like I have the dark years where the Niners were garbage for 10 years and now they're, top 4 team, if not top 2 team in the NFL. So, that definitely helps, but yeah. Sorry, Kevin, I cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, Samantha's going to be the one going to an NFL game with the NFL shield. sweatshirt and the NFL Shield hat. Just non-committal. I'm just here for fun. Yep.
I'm pretty sure that Rob Lowe went to a football game and he wore the NFL Shield, and people are like, Chris Traeger, he's just rocking the NFL Shield. Like, that's Chris Traeger for you.
That's so funny. I have some NFL gear that's like Panthers, because I didn't get into football until I was living in the South, and even then, no one seemed to care about NFL where I was. They were all about college. So I was like kind of passively a Panthers fan, but it did break my heart to see Cam Newton go to the Patriots.
Yeah, it's tough. It'll be interesting. I feel like that could have been a good over-under. Maybe it's there and I just missed it. Let's move on to the next one. So moving into running backs, I don't have any idea what I would do for this one. So for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back for the Chiefs, over under 1,250.5 total scrimmage yards. I don't even know what to base this off of. I was looking at Damien's stats. I probably need to just see what the running back room did as a whole. I think I'm probably taking the under on this. But, man, 600 and 600 just feels like such a low – well, I guess 700 or 800 and 400, 500 feels like a low bar, but – I don't know, probably taking under because I think they will share the ball enough, but I don't know. What do you think, Samantha?
I think I'm taking the under. I did make a TikTok about like Clyde Edwards-Helaire hype being way too high right now. But I mean, I obviously think he's going to be great. I just think that that's a really big number for a rookie in a weird season where they're not getting enough time together to learn the playbook and everything. So I just think if you look at Alvin Kamara's, which is like down the list, it's like 1,450. And I mean, that's big for someone like Kamara. So 1,250 feels like a lot for a running back. Like that's assuming that he's literally like getting so much work. And I just don't think it's going to be there immediately. Even if he gets there through 6-8 games, it's still going to be season long, not going to be like Kamara's role, for instance.
Yeah.
See, I got this number. Brad Evans actually tweeted out something earlier tonight about this prop, 1250.5. And it, I actually included that really late here, a few hours ago, but I'm going to take the under as well because it's really difficult to forecast anybody for, over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, much less a rookie that, we're going to be drafting with supremely high draft capital. If you have to really believe. But I do think DeAndre Washington is going to have a role in that offense. I think Darrell Williams is going to have a role. So I don't think it's all going to be him. I think he asserts himself eventually. But, I think maybe a 700 rushing yards, 400 receiving yards, I think is a very, very attainable numbers. 1250 is just very lofty to me.
Anybody's I actually don't think he's that overvalued. I never really put the yardage component to it. It has to be a PPR league, standard leagues. He definitely loses value, but I think he's going to have so many catches and that he will have a strong number of touchdowns. I would put him at, close to the 8+ touchdown mark, I would think. The one thing you said, DeAndre Washington, I don't follow college, so I didn't know this at all, that DeAndre Washington played with Mahomes at Tech, and that Mahomes in the offseason was lobbying to bring DeAndre Washington in. So that was very interesting to me. So it'll be good to see. It definitely makes me wish I put a little bit of more bids on DeAndre Washington in a lot of my leagues. But again, throw up that comment, by the way.
Yeah, and it's funny. Duke Backus, I really appreciate you, man. I've gone a long way with him. Great guy. Love you, Duke. Appreciate the shout out. As far as DeAndre Washington, though, right now you're getting him in like the 13th, 14th round, and he's not priced appropriately given this offense and given the fact that he could have a role akin to guys in the Boston Scott, Alex Madison range of maybe like those 0 RB targets. Those are guys you can take, that have an avenue to getting some fantasy value. I would certainly take him, Darrell Williams, Darwin Thompson, those guys maybe are just flyers, but I think DeAndre Washington's going to have a role in the offense. And I think he's just going to cut maybe a little bit of the legs under CEH, but he's going to assert himself eventually. Just that 12, I wouldn't even touch that prop. If I were looking to bet that, I wouldn't even give it a second thought.
For sure. Take us to the next one, Kev. I'm trying to find something.
Okay, so we're going to go with Ezekiel Elliott. Under. I'm going to take the under on this. It's going to be 1,275 rushing yards. I don't think it's going to be by much, but what? I just think.
How are you taking the under on this? He passed it by 100 and he passed it by 200 2 years ago. He passed this by 400 his rookie year.
I'm just not super enthused about Mike McCarthy's history with using running backs. Granted, Zeke is a whole different animal compared to the guys that McCarthy has been able to use in the past, but that's the thing that gives me pause when I look at that number, 1,275 rushing yards, knowing that they have Dak Prescott with Lamb and Cooper and Gallup and Jarwin and all those guys there, throwing the ball. They're going to throw the ball close to 600 times. I just don't know. I think Zeke's going to be fantastic. Don't get me wrong. He's consistent. I just worry a little bit about McCarthy using the running back, but he could also defer, to the offensive coordinator there. I'm blanking on his name. The kid from Kellen Moore. I want to say Kellen Winslow. I'm like, that's definitely not it.
A little bit different.
A little bit. He's not a soldier, but
this is officially going on. I still have our fantasy live bets on my phone. This is our second one, but this is now our second bet. I am taking the over, you're taking the under. I'm happy I just got $5 towards the charity of my choice when this hits.
You're hilarious, and we'll take that. That's fine. Put it on the board. I don't have a bell. I need a bell. That's what I need. But which one of us? Save our show.
I love the over here. I'm with you, Gary. I think if Zeke stays healthy, this is a lock. He's smashed that over in 3 of the last 4 years. And is averaging almost 1,500 rushing yards per season in the years he's played at least 15 games. He missed like 6 games in 2017 and was just shy of 1,000 yards then. So it definitely feels like a lock for me. I know they're going to throw a lot, but I think it's not zero sum, but it's definitely a little bit like it's not like adding CeeDee Lamb is going to like eat into all of Zeke's work. So I think he's still going to be a really big part of the offense. Like you said, Mike McCarthy's never had a running back like Zeke to work with. So we'll see.
I will give you one last chance just to say, even the 10-game season, he was still on pace for 1,400 yards. His worst season was last season at 1,330. Do you want to change your mind?
Are you trying to get me to flip flop?
I just want you to admit that I'm right. We are right.
You know what? I will be ecstatic if you guys are right, but okay. I'm gonna play contrarian right now.
Perfect. Let's do it. CEH 3rd overall in our mock. Last week, Kevin took CEH at number 3 in a mock draft we did on the air.
To be fair, it was because of these glasses.
Wait, what's the glasses?
Oh, I just put them on because the future was so bright. I wanted to go with CEH.
I love it.
Thank you to the San Diego Board of Tourism for those, by the way.
So next up, rookie running back. Another one we're going to go with Jonathan Taylor. Over under on 699.5 rushing yards. Samantha, you take us out the gate here. I want to know what you think.
This is I think all the rookie kind of projections are really tough, especially this season. This one's tough. Frank Reich came out today and said that Marlon Mack's the starter, but kind of left it a little open-ended. Obviously a lot of that's like coach speak, like, their lips are moving, but they're lying, whatever, like at this point. But obviously this kid from Wisconsin, he's incredibly, incredibly talented. from Big Ten, which has obviously produced a number of really big running back stars. I think he ran like the fastest 40 time, or like one of the faster 40 times. So obviously I think he can get there. And even this season, it's just a matter of at what point are we kind of going to start fading? Like, when does Marlon Mack kind of start to fade distance? And I don't know if that's like game 2. It could be week 2. It could be week 4. It could be week 6, but it will happen. I'm just not sure. So I'm going to passively say under at this point.
Do you think that it's likely that how many carries do you think around is like over under? Do you think it would be like, if I said 175, do you think we'll have above or below in terms of total carries?
Maybe.
I would say last year Mac had a 247 last year, and the year before that he had 195.
I'm going to say under.
Okay, so under 175, Kevin?
For Mac or for Taylor?
For Taylor.
That's tough because that's a good number.
Yeah.
Now, I've been on record as saying I think Mac is solid for 175 carries. Yeah. So I think he's going to be right about that. Like Sam said, I think he's going to eventually take the role, whether it's, week 2, week 4, what have you. I have it as the over for the yardage. I see it being like the Chester Taylor, Adrian Peterson, when Adrian Peterson was a rookie, where you had the incumbent veteran that eventually seeded to the much more talented and dynamic running back. So I'm going to go over on the attempts with Taylor, because Indianapolis is going to be a top 6 run pass ratio, running team. So, and I'll go over on the yardage as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say he's good for about $185, $190. Mac will still be around in that 175 range.
I think it would be very rare for him to be under 4 yards a carry. And at 4 yards a carry on 175 carries, he is exactly at 700 yards. I would smash this. I mean, this and Zeke, I would feel just as comfortable with both of those, with their respective bets there, just because I think with that line and the quality of runner that Taylor is, it would be very difficult. I mean, he'll be over 4.5 a carry. He should be, if not much higher. Right. But yeah, now it just comes down to the total number of carries he gets. And if they do split it more, then who knows? But like you said, it's going to be a running team. It's not going to be Phillip Rivers' team by any means. If Phillip Rivers has to take over and be the leader of that team, something's gone wrong.
Prepare for 24 more interceptions.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh man, that would be rough. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Taylor can do, especially if not this year. But man, once he's unleashed in 2021 and it's his backfield, it's going to be a beast.
Absolutely. So let's go to another one, which this is interesting. This is one of the more interesting ones that we have to go over. Josh Allen. I have him as the over on 525 rushing yards. Sorry, 525.5. Can't forget that. But just because a lot of his runs they're not designed. They're just improvisation. So I think it's a very volatile prop because he could just crush it, or, just based on the design, he's got Stephon Diggs now running more intermediate routes, stretching that out and pulling more coverage. They've got John Brown and Cole Beasley probably in more set roles than they were last year, where John Brown can be the field stretcher and Cole Beasley can be the slot guy. So I think Josh Allen gets over that 525.5.
Sam?
For the same reason, like, it's so volatile. I would never touch this type of bet for sure. Yeah. I'm going to say a very, very soft under. He was at 510 last season and 531 the season before. But he's got now 2 pretty strong. I mean, I'm pretty high on Zach Moss this year, so I think he's got 2 pretty strong running backs. And also with the addition of Stephon Diggs, I feel like it's just more likely that the plays go, more of the touches go to them. And plays go to them. So it's not a strong one though for me.
Yeah, I would actually completely agree. I think he'll get just maybe to 500, maybe a little bit under that even. Yeah, I mean, I'll have some running lanes and whatnot. I probably should look at Cam Newton's numbers and see what his actually rushing yardage, because I think they're going to rely on Josh Allen more as a passer this year. They put the investment in there. I know that they're not the same player by any means, but I feel like at least the comp in terms of what type of yardage total was Cam getting on the ground, which is taking me too long to get to. So hopefully someone knows what that is. Off the top of your head. So Cam, Jesus, disregard that. Cam is a freaking beast, dude. 500-600 yards, 700-yard rushing seasons. I think he'll probably be in the 490 to 510. So it's a soft under, and I think that they want to turn him into a passer in the red zone. Like, they'll unleash him and he'll do his thing. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the Bills can do. I just think they're such a good team that I don't know.
And their lines improved this year, so I think it's definitely good news for the running backs. Just not sure about the rushing yards for him. But.
Yeah, totally. All right, next one. You alluded to this earlier. Alvin Kamara over under 1,449.5 total scrimmage yards. So 1,450 above or below that. That's, I don't even know.
It's a huge number. I'm not sure. I think, last season, I think he was on pace to hit over. But he was definitely dealing with some injuries. I think, if he's healthy and everything, that this could hit over. So I'm going to say, a shy over here.
A meek over.
Yeah, a meek over. Yeah, let's go with that.
I would go I'd go clear over, just because he's done it twice before, and he was on pace to just get over that last year. He missed 2 games. But I think there's regression coming for Kamara. Last year was just weird as far as, his receiving usage. So he still had 81 catches, but the yards have gone down the last 3 seasons. Touchdowns just fell off a cliff. I think they get back to, Kamara, in tandem with Thomas just being the 2 focal points. I think Kamara continues to assert himself, and I think he's going to clear 1,500.
Yep. I think he's going to crush it. I mean, he could easily have more than that. I think now that he's healthy, they're going to do everything they can. And, Breeze is still Breeze, but if, Breeze should be retiring. Like, if he, for any reason, loses any step whatsoever, Kamara's just going to become even more involved. And God, I'm excited to see this offense as much as I'm terrified of it. But it'll be really, really fun.
Don't you sort of weren't you sad from a fantasy perspective that Jameis is no longer a starter? Because I will miss pass catchers on Jameis's team and their production.
So I think I had said to Kevin in the offseason that I thought that Cam should sign with the Saints and then just become the heir apparent under Sean Payton, assuming Sean stays. And obviously I was right conference, wrong quarterback. But, dude, I mean, if Sean Payton is going to stay around, hell yeah. And it would be so cool to see what would happen in 2021 if it was Winston with Michael Thomas, see what they could even get Michael Thomas to do. I think I saw the stat in the last 3 years, Drew Brees has completed 1 pass over 30 yards. What?
Wow.
That's insane. So I'm excited to see what they do next year. And even if Brees does retire, even if it's not Winston, I mean, every quarterback would love to go there if they don't have a home. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
What, are you not down with Taysom Hill?
I was just going to ask about your opinion on Taysom Hill.
He's a gadget player. He's not a professional QB.
Do you know the shit I have to deal with Packers Twitter and how I can't believe that Green Bay let him go? This is almost a daily thing.
On Green Bay.
Oh my God. Between him and Joe Callahan, I swear.
I don't understand. Who cares about Taysom Hill? He is useful in real football. and he is useful because Sean Payton makes him useful, not because of anything else. So, yeah, cool. Put him in and run some tricks with it.
I love it. So, yeah, take us, Gary.
All right, so I believe we're jumping to wide receivers here. So looking at Amari Cooper, for me, this is a very simple one. It's the over-under of 1,099.5 receiving yards. To me, that's a complete smash, except even if he's only going to get to 1,200, I do think he gets to 1,200. I know that other people are hesitant. They think that CD takes away from it. To me, Amari Cooper is just going to get better. He now has another year under his belt with Dallas. And, I'm just excited. Was he traded last year? Am I crazy? No, he was traded in 2018. Yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
I think that having some of the coverage going a little bit towards CD is going to help. The only problem that I have with it, and it's what Chase brought up last week on the podcast, is, man, Amari's cornerback coverage. He is running a gauntlet all season going against some amazing cornerbacks. So that'll be interesting to see, but getting over 1,100 shouldn't be too difficult when you can put up 200 plus in a game.
I actually like the under here. I do have my concerns, of course, with Lamb joining this offense. So last season, like, Cooper had just shy of 1,200 and Gallup had another 1,100. But, like, that literally just means that, like, conservatively, Lamb takes away 100 yards from, like, Cooper's production in 1 year. I can easily see that happening. I certainly think he's going to be a really good. This feels like a big number to have 3 really elite receivers on one team. Obviously Dak is great, and I think this is going to be probably the best, like, if not the best, like, one of the top offenses. It's just difficult to see how, like, all 3 of them can do well.
And I think they all can. I mean, we've seen McCarthy, churn out 3, top, startable fantasy options at the very least out of those 3. So I think, we're looking at guys that are no longer on the team. Randall Cobb was 55 for 828 last year. He's given up they're giving up 83 targets. Witten, giving up another 83 targets. So there's definitely room in this offense when you're talking about the big 4 guys and then throw Zeke Elliott with that. You're talking the 3 wide receivers and Jarwin. I think I'm going to go over on Cooper, and he's going to have to, because I think Gallup, I think it's a 1,000-yard lock. I think Lamb is close to that. But if we're anointing Dak Prescott as like the fantasy, throwing for 5,000 yards and doing all this stuff, and anointing him as maybe the 3rd out of Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, at least from fantasy, that's going to have to happen. Cooper's going to have to get 1,200. Gallup's going to take another step up, and there's targets left over to do that. There's yards left over to do that. There's a lot of room in this offense, and I think I'm not worried about. A lot of people were worried, especially when Lamb was just drafted, that he's going to cannibalize some of the work from Gallup and cannibalize a lot of the work from Cooper. I just don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of room for all 3 guys, and Jarwin and Elliott. So definitely go with the over on Cooper, even though where he's being I don't think he's accurately priced right now as a 3rd rounder, because there's a lot of guys I'd rather have than Cooper. So you won't find Cooper on a lot of my teams, just because I'm not sure with those 3 guys how that's going to split. I think they all get there. As far as those 1,000-yard seasons, Gallup is appropriately priced. I think Lamb could maybe come up more, but right now those 2 are both values.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you move along to our next one here?
Yeah, and this is a guy that I'm not super high on, but I get it, and it's Adam Thielen for 1,199.5 yards. So basically, we're talking 1,200 yards. Is Thielen going to hit it? Samantha, what do you think about Adam Thielen?
I'm pretty high on Thielen this year, and it's not just because I took him in the Scott Fish Bowl. But obviously he was out a bit for last season with the hamstring injuries, so I kind of feel like a lot of people forget about him a little bit. And also, like, that offense was dysfunctional with, like, if you have a receiver, like a star receiver, like begging to be traded at the deadline and like that like weird squeaky wheel sort of like dynamic, I feel like that kind of messed with a lot of like that offense jiving last year. But I mean, Diggs had 94 targets last year, and I don't think obviously Thielen's going to get all of those, but it certainly feels like he's a lock for 1,000-yard season. 1,200 could be hard to get to. Like, this feels like the right number, especially with like they added Justin Jefferson, I think from LSU. This season. So, I think if he stays healthy, he can get there. But yeah, I feel like this number is right.
Yeah, it's a smash for me because I love Thielen this year. I actually just took him as my wide receiver one in a league that is actively drafting right now.
Wow, that is impressive. I cannot do that. I like freak out. I could not multitask.
It's a slow draft, so I'm just looking at my phone. Like, it's some guy, Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor just went.
Is it a bad time to say I'm currently in 4 slow drafts right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in 2, and I think we have 2 more starting this weekend, maybe.
You guys are so impressive.
It's time for an intervention.
You kind of just like log in, and you're like, all right, I know that I'm going to be up in a couple picks. Looking at maybe put some guys in the queue, and that way it'll just remind me. I like to use my queue a lot. I hate to auto pick from my queue because I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. But I like to put guys in my queue so that later I can go back to it and be like, oh yeah, I was thinking these guys. I'm just going to leave it there, and then it's easy enough. But Adam Thielen, I think he's a lock for 130, at minimum of 130 targets. Probably going to be closer to 148, 150. He had 150 targets in 2018 and 140 targets in 2017. Assuming that he gets above the 130 mark, he'll hit 1,200. Assuming he gets, in my mind, closer to the 150 mark, I think this guy's the limit. I'm really, actually, the reason I'm taking him as a wide receiver one, I think we have a good chance, obviously assuming health, that he's going to get close to 1,400 yards. I think his touchdowns are going to be there. Adam Thielen, just to me, is a screaming value in all drafts right now because you're getting him in the 4th, maybe even the 5th, depending on where it's going. I took Adam Thielen over in this league over Amari Cooper. I can't even think who else. I took him and Allen Robinson back to back just to have a nice PPR floor with high upside for both of them. So, yeah.
Thielen's tough. Oh.
I was just going to say, wait, so I have to know how many leagues you're both in because I only do maybe like 4 leagues a year.
How long do you have?
There's a caveat to it. So I have 2 keeper leagues that are like, that's my pride and joy. I have 2 keeper leagues and 1 dynasty league that I genuinely care about so much. I think about constantly. I go on to ESPN, if not daily, just to see if anyone's done ads or drops. I have another. Oh no, that's included there. And then I don't know, random dynasty leagues that you're just kind of scrolling through. Kevin and I are both probably in like 10 plus, and then a lot of best ball leagues. I just started doing that this year. There's a lot of industry best ball leagues where 300, 500, 700 people are in it, kind of Scott Fish Bowl style, but it's set it and forget it for the most part. Yeah. And then the more integrated you get into, you just kind of sign up for random stuff. Quarantine, I think, is probably making more people in more leagues, and come fall, a lot of people are going to be like, oh shit, what do I do? But
it's like that dog that you adopted and then you're like, I have to go back to work now. That's actually a thing that's happening. That's people shouldn't do, but
sure. It's an emotional support dog.
Mm-hmm. That's sad, but yeah, I've been getting way into best ball, and I think that's gonna be come next year. Most of my leagues are gonna be best ball, where I can just draft and basically use it as just rolling ADP data, and so I can get a feel of what's going on. Where are these guys getting drafted? Yeah. I think I'm going to cut back on maybe I'm going to stick to like 3 or 4 dynasty leagues because right now I'm in way too many as far as like setting lineups and stuff like that. I have a home league that we're drafting right now. And then, we have a few leagues like those industry ones that Gary was talking about, but God, right now, or at least it's over 20.
I would imagine that next year, Kevin and I will start splitting some leagues and do like the Fight Live team type thing, just because like I have a team that I'm splitting with Murph from 5 Yard Rush, and I absolutely love doing that because like either one of us can look at it and we're comfortable, even though he spent way too much on the Shiny Boy. But other than that, I'm not bitter. And I don't know, it's fun. You just got to know that you're not going to take stuff as seriously. The one thing, as you do get into more leagues, know that, obviously COVID's kind of weird and maybe stunted some of this, but usually at mid-August, your buddies that do fantasy are now like, oh, you want to do this? You want to do this? And I remember I don't do Yahoo leagues, and all of a sudden I had like 5 Yahoo leagues last season. And I was just like, on Tuesdays, I'd be like, okay, go to the Yahoo app, go to the ESPN app, all my sleepers. And then I have an obscene amount of MFL leagues this year, but a lot of them are best ball.
Wow, I am so impressed, guys.
You just get used to it. Also, it's like my hobby. I tell my wife I'm a very simple person. It's like my wife, my son, work, and football. Like I'm a very simple person.
Yeah, same. This is the only night of the week I drink. I don't really drink that much, but I'm waiting for that Truly sponsorship. Just saying.
Not a sponsor.
I love
it. Okay, we got 4 more to go through, and then I have one bigger question. So let's go through these 4 kind of faster. I think that the tight ends I'm interested in talking about. These last 2 wide receivers I'm less, but so Keenan Allen over under 89.5 receptions. I think that the good thing about this question is that it's just more of an open conversation about what we expect from the offense now without Rivers. Under Rivers, 89.5 would never be the number. It would be much higher than that. He's been over 97 for the last 3 years straight. I would still probably take, I want to say the over. I just don't even know if they're going to throw that much. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to say he's probably going to get into the low 80s just because I think that the passing attempts is going to be lower. And therefore, he's just going to have less targets.
I totally agree with you. Like you said, under Rivers, he was averaging 101 catches in the last 3 seasons. So this seems like really, really low, especially because he's just like a PPR monster, and like we think about him in that way. But Rivers passed for 4,600 yards last season, and Taylor's last season as a starter, he was like 2,800 yards. And obviously, like different situations, whatever, but Anthony Lynn was also like really, really pissed off about the ball security issues. So I kind of feel like it's going to be a lot run heavier, just based on like, the personnel that they have there and what's available. So I just don't see, the targets being there for him.
Yep.
It's a hard under for me. Taylor's never thrown more than 436 attempts in a season. I think when the transition happens to Herbert, I think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve and a feeling out process versus seeing, what he has, at his disposal, and then just that adjustment from getting, receiving from Taylor versus Herbert, who clearly has a much better arm and is probably just as mobile. So I think, you've got Eckler there who could probably be more of a safety valve. He'll get those catches. I would say he's a good bet to lead that team in receptions. And then you've got other guys, like you got to figure out what you're going to do with Hunter Henry. You got to figure out Mike Williams. It's a narrow target distribution, but I just don't think that Keenan Allen, we've known him as that kind of PPR stalwart. You could bank him for, 95 to 100 catches every year. I just don't think that until Herbert asserts himself that, at least for this year, that I'm going to take that under, smashy under.
I do not think that Herbert will start a game this season.
Oh, no? Wow. Yeah. Is that a prop? I feel like that's got to be a prop somewhere.
I'm sure.
That's a bet, Gary.
I genuinely, they're a good team. Like I haven't looked at their schedule, so I'm saying this off the cuff. I'm saying that barring injury, like Tyrod should be playing. Like, why would you switch if your team is already doing well? And their defense is so freaking. I really think that people don't understand how good their defense is relative to the injuries because of the injuries that they've had. You know, they have an amazing line with Melvin Ingram and Bosa, and then Derwin James. He's amazing. Their cornerbacks. You remember that their corners for a bit were like some of the best in the league. That's not to say that they're going to still be the best or anything, but
they got Chris Harris, I think, now too.
They do, yeah. It's crazy. So obviously, it's a tough division. Well, you have the Chiefs in the division, but they always play against the Chiefs pretty darn hard. So we'll see. Ultimately, when it comes to a Keenan Allen, though, yeah, I have no problem with taking the under on that.
Gary, I don't know what your middle name is, Haddow.
It's Gary Larry.
All right, 5.5 games for Herbert. You're taking the hard under. You don't think he's going to start any?
Yeah. I think that
over
he'll start 2 or 3.
Put it on the phone.
I just don't know why he would start more than 1 outside of injury. I mean, because the only other reason would be if the Chargers just aren't doing that well. Which, like, hey, they could not be doing that well, but I think that with Eckler, with their running backs that they have, with Tyrod's legs, that they're going to be able to spread out the ball, and they have weapons at all the different levels. I mean, I don't particularly like anybody on their team outside of Eckler. I just like all the pieces as a whole on offense. So,
but if they plateau, if that team plateaus and they see, hey, we can't get over the hump with Tyrod Taylor, we can't afford to win 17, 14 games. We need something to take us over the hump. Maybe, you don't I think in a situation like that, that's where you're going to see Justin Herbert get in there.
That would be the same logic for why wouldn't you put Love in if the Packers are winning a bunch of close games? Like, if you're winning, you don't do that. So
that's why.
Let's move on to Ruggs. No, that's crazy.
Put it in your phone right now.
5.5 over under. Done. We're doing another one.
Hard over.
Henry Ruggs over under 741 yards, receiving yards. What do you guys think?
Gary is not about that prop. Do you see the disdain in his face?
I just don't really care. I'm putting in this other one. I just don't care about Ruggs. I actually think the only reason I think he's probably over is because he's going to have 15 plays that are going to be like over 40 yards. And all of a sudden he's gotten half of that. And then if they are going to use him in the slot at all, he'll accumulate another 400 yards on top of it. I would actually very hesitantly take the over. To me, this is just not one I would even touch, because I think he'll be very, very close to between 700 and 800 yards, given his speed and whatever additional targets they throw at him. He doesn't move the needle for me in dynasty or redraft whatsoever.
Well, let's go to the voice of reason, Samantha. What do you think?
I like that. I really like Ruggs. Obviously, he's a total speed demon. He ran like one of the fastest 40s like ever. And he's a 3-sport athlete, like just a total freak. And he's definitely like what you said, Gary, like the stretch the field type of guy. He's going to get a bunch of like huge yardage plays. So I like this. I like the over on this one.
To me, Ruggs is like the Walmart version of Tyreek Hill as far as how they want, seeing how much that he terrorized the Raiders, how much they want, what they want to kind of emulate. So with that, I think that's going to be a hard over. I think he leads. I think he comes close to leading that team in receiving yards. I'm going to smash the over. Obviously, Waller is by far the number one option in that offense, but I think Ruggs, I would make this bet certainly over 740. Absolutely.
He averaged over 16 yards per catch in all 3 seasons at Alabama. So I could definitely see him being like a really big play type guy. And I think everyone is calling him the poor man's Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Kevin, we have a bet on here that I don't know what it is. It says DJM over under 10.5. Gary bets over. It can't be touchdowns because it's a lot of touchdowns.
10.5 for DJ Moore, clearly.
Yeah.
I don't know what it could be if it's not touchdowns. 10.5?
I'll go back and I'm not going to go back and listen. I'm just deleting.
That's why we need a stat. We got to hire some kid, like a stat guy.
Yeah. Well, you should use someone from the New York Post, just some intern or something. I think you know someone from the New York Post. Okay. Now I want to get to the one that I genuinely care about because I feel like
Gary's back in, everybody.
Yeah. Back into it. Evan Ingram, so switching to tight ends, over under 674.5 receiving yards. Samantha, you're up there in New York. What do you think of Evan Ingram?
Oh, goodness. I feel so bad for him because he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I mean, since his rookie season, they just picked up his 5th-year option, and I know he's called this whole offseason blessed. Like, I don't know if anyone has called the offseason blessed except for him, but I like the attitude. Like, I really like it. It's really the health for me. Like, I'm so afraid of him. So, and I was so high on him last year, but obviously kind of got burned by that. So, I'm gonna go under here, but I don't feel really strongly about either of like the tight end bets. I just think it's like tight ends. It's a little harder for me because I kind of think that it's a little more random.
Interesting, Kevin.
I'm gonna. You know what? I've been drafting him a lot more. Just the way the drafts that I've had have fallen.
You just turned off your video.
What's that?
You just turned off your video.
No, I did, didn't I? Hold on. Let's try this again.
We're professionals here, Samantha. And now we're moving.
Are we good? We're not good, are we? We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to figure it out.
Anyway, going, dude. We're almost done.
I'm talking, so we got that at least. I've been drafting him more and more, and I just think that if he plays 12 games, plays 13 games, I think he's a lock to hit that 674. I think he's going to lead the Giants in receiving. I just think he's a superstar, but that's the thing. The one bugaboo is his health. He's missed how many games the last 3 years? At least, I think it was, he missed 1 rookie year. He missed 5 and 18. He missed 7. So that's 13 right there in 3 years. That's the main thing. So bless up to Evan Ingram. Let's hope he can play 12, 13 games and show what you showed in that rookie year when everybody else was hurt and you got the ball out.
Yeah, I would definitely take it. I'm not as quite optimistic, even though I absolutely love him. He's my tight end 4 on the year. Sorry, tight end 5 on the year. Because I'm buying the dip. I think injuries are injuries and people get to be tagged injury prone. It doesn't mean that they are. So we'll see. I could easily be very, very wrong on this. But if he does play, like you said, a minimum of 12 games, I mean, if he played 16 games, I actually think he'll be the tight end 3 on the year. And if he gets the targets, it actually ties to our next guy, which is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews had 98 targets and got 852 yards. I think that we would see a pretty similar thing, assuming that Ingram plays 15, 16 games. I like to use this stat whenever I'm talking about Ingram, and that is he actually out-targeted Kelsey on a per-game basis last season. He only played 8 games, but he had 86 targets. That's 8.5 per game. That's a lot of targets for a tight end. So I think if he stays used in that same role, like he has very, very high ceiling. But this really just comes down to injury and whatnot. So we'll see what happened. Maybe COVID blessed his body and he had time to recoup and he wasn't going and doing shenanigans, and all of a sudden he's going to be healthy this year. So, all right, last before we get to our final question, I hope we're not keeping you, Samantha. So Mark Andrews, over under 64.5 receptions. It's interesting is last year he was at 64 receptions. I think it's a really good line. I personally am going to take the over just because I think that with Hayden Hurst out, he'll increase his snap share. And I like the offense to throw. I can't necessarily say a little more, but maybe a little bit more. And I think that Andrews and Hollywood are going to be really the focal point of that pass attack, and Andrews will just even become more integrated into, the percentage snaps played and the total targets that he receives.
I think I lean the under. It's like you said, what he did have 64 catches last year, so it's like obviously a very pretty spot on number here. So it's kind of like it's a toss-up, could go really either way. But I really see Marquise Brown being the main beneficiary of Jackson's kind of coming out party here. But they also added Devin Duvernay, third round pick from Texas. So I think he'll definitely see some targets as well. So it's like a soft under.
Yeah.
For me, it's a hard over, it's a smash over to the highest proportions. They need a volume guy in the worst way in that offense. And I don't think Marquise Brown has the skill set to be that guy. I don't know if, at least in 2020, if Duvernay can replace Willie Snead in the slot. I don't know about Miles Boykin. So when you're left with Mark Andrews, now Mark Andrews is going to absolutely obliterate the 44% snap percentage he played last season, which was 2 percentage points over Hayden Hurst. Nick Boyle played 70% of the snaps there, and obviously he's not going to be relied on as a pass catcher. Yeah. So I think Mark Andrews is in the most narrow of target distributions of pretty much any team outside of probably the Chargers. So when you look at that and you saw what he did with the efficiency, I don't see any reason why Mark Andrews can't have 80, 85 catches. And he got banged up a lot last year. I will say that. He left. How many games did he leave? Probably at least 3 or 4 with just nagging injuries, but he always came back out. Yeah. So I think, like I said, they need a target. They need a volume dependent option in the worst way in that offense. I don't think they're going to get by with Lamar spreading it around to everybody, including the running back. So I think that Andrews is going to take that next step to get up to that Kelsey and Kittle level for 2020. Hard smash.
All right. So I got my one last question. I kind of put this in at the end, and this is not player props. This is a conversation I've had with quite a few people lately, and it's MVP odds. So the odds that a player is going to end up being the MVP, just to give a rough kind of estimate, is, Mahomes is plus 350. So you spend $100, you get 350 back. Lamar is at plus 700. Wilson's 850. All the way down to there's like plus 5,000, plus 10,000 guys. But off of this list, and I'm really just including quarterbacks on this because it's very rare for a non-quarterback to get MVP. Samantha, relative to the odds, are there quarterbacks or what, 1 or 2 quarterbacks would you think, I would put money on these guys to be the MVP? Obviously, Mahomes is probably the front runner, but what do you think?
Relative to the odds, I can't go Wilson after I saw that Mr. Incredible or whatever video. I literally can't do it.
Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited, thank you. I would probably I love now I could root for Tom Brady because he's off the Patriots, and I actually think that that's really good value, especially with the weapons that he's going to have around him. Yeah. I mean, I could also see there being pretty good value at, is that Rodgers at 2,000?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that's honestly really good value for where he is. I think that, what you said before about him having the chip on his shoulder or whatever, that is a total, I think that's a real thing. People stats wise will say that that's not a real thing, but I think it's a real thing. And I think that could be a very nice, narrative into getting to the MVP.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin?
I am going to smash this with a hammer, just Thor's hammer, Matt Ryan at 5,000, because I absolutely 100% believe in the Falcons offense. I don't think their defense is going to be as bad, although it's not going to be great. But if you're looking at 5,000, $100 went 5,000. If you're looking at guys around that, I would in no way take Matthew Stafford because I don't think they have an out to being at maybe 500. Rivers, I don't think he's going to do enough, even though the Colts are probably going to be a playoff team. Josh Allen, that's tough at 3,000. Baker Mayfield, I'm not super concerned, but and I'll throw Ben Roethlisberger in there too, because both of those guys, Matt Ryan and Roethlisberger, are at 5,000, and I will take both of those guys all day long because Ryan's won an MVP, won it in 2015. And Roethlisberger, if he can return to form with the weapons that he has and that solid defense that they have, why not? You know, if Roethlisberger can throw for 47, 40, 100 yards and lead that team, you know, if he can make the playoffs, and why not?
Yeah, it does make sense. I'm always curious if they would give I feel like the MVP has a lot of narrative to it, and that they try to spread it around as much as possible unless someone blows their socks off. The two guys that, you know, Jimmy G, that's kind of my long shot that I'm all about. I have $100 on it. I've split with my buddy that is also a diehard Niners fan. For me, this is, I don't care what people think about Jimmy and that, you know, he's not that great, whatever. This is about long shots, you know, and he has the supporting cast that if he can take the next level, he's a year removed from his ACL. It's a Shanahan offense, which is what got Ryan his MVP. We know that everything is there. We've seen them do it. They were close to a juggernaut last year on offense, even though it was primarily through the running game. So I definitely think that if Jimmy takes the next step, I mean, dude could be super money. And if they get all the way to winning a Super Bowl, if the Niners again go 14-2 or even better, you know, there's a lot of options there. But I think the number one is going to be Drew Brees. I genuinely believe that they are going to give it to him. I do not believe he's ever won MVP before. He's 2,000 to 1 or whatever it is, plus 2,000, I mean. And if this is going to be his last year, and if he puts up another season like he did last year, it just strikes me as this guy at, 38, 39, going, actually, I think he's 40 now. If he puts up the same percentage, reception percentage that he did, and just if he just mirrors what he did last year, maybe some more touchdowns, even though he had a ton, why would you give it to someone else? Obviously, there's constant, almost yearly narrative about Drew Brees and what he's doing. And hey, Michael Thomas is a part of that. AK, if he is healthy, and you're either going to Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara on the flats, and then all of a sudden you now have Emmanuel Sanders and you have Jared Cook that are going to be in the seam doing whatever. Like, man, that's a recipe. If in fantasy and in the NFL, my two bets that I would love to make are my go-to horse is Breeze, and then my long shot's Jimmy. So
one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an even year for Matt Ryan. Just want to say that.
Yes, it is.
Let's not
reduce that narrative.
No. Samantha said, "What's that?" So every year, if you look at Matt Ryan's production, if just look at his fantasy finishes, that's kind of an easy way to look at it. Mm-hmm. On the odd years, he usually is below like 15 or 16 for like QB, but in the even years, he's usually top 5.
That's amazing. I love it.
Happened like clockwork now. I think we're going on 5 or 6 years. It might be even longer than that. It's crazy how much it's happened. So, and I mean, their offense is going to be just as good this year. Hayden Hurst is going to fit right in for Austin Hooper, and you know, obviously they have Gurley now. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they all do.
I love it. #science. That's
exactly right. #narrative street and science somehow. Samantha, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I was really glad to actually get to talk face to face to you instead of a Twitter DM. So, one more time, let us know where we can find you, and then we'll wrap her up.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samantha NFL, on TikTok at STravidi, and on the New York Post. I will probably start up fantasy coverage pretty soon, but I do a menagerie of different things. My last article was about an NBA player keeping his room at 50 degrees to chill his wine. So it's all over the place, but yeah, follow me for nonsense.
That is all first world problems, if there was any. Oh
I know.
God.
He said like he doesn't. There's not a wine cooler that he could buy enough, like large enough for the 84 bottles that he has bottled the Oregon Pinot Noir. So.
Oh my God, that's insane. But yeah, Samantha, thank you so much. It's good to actually meet you and get you on here and wrap about some player props. So, Gary, anything else?
No, I really appreciate it. hopefully we'll be talking some more. I'll get my wife to follow you instead of Espraviti on TikTok. So that'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to that Taylor Swift video.
I will work.
So am I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you guys
definitely.
don't believe, like, I'm definitely the type of person that is more than happy to do that with my wife. I just need to find the energy to do it. That's all.
No, like a lot of people are doing it. It's a whole
Yeah.
like marry me Juliet thing, and then you like go in the background. Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be cool.
I have no idea what anybody's talking about, so I'll just take your guys' word for it. But yeah, that about wraps us up. So next week, Gary, we're gonna have Nate Hamilton on. We're gonna go player v player.
Nice.
Dominate. He will be with us next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. So again, to those of you who stuck around with us, thank you so much. And this was Fighting Chance Live. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.
Right.